Alrighty, what's up? Let's get into tonight's training. Welcome. So remember, if you've got questions, post them up in the question box and I'll be able to get to them at the end of the webinar. So this is being recorded, so if you miss out, don't worry. We'll make sure we get it back to you later tonight. Tonight we're going to run through a couple of key points. Like obviously, we provide you with what to do here, to make sure you're on track both with food, with calories, with exercise, and with support. But I think it's also really, really important that you guys understand why you're doing what you do. So when you go, out of this program back into the real world, you've got some understanding of why this works, why it works for you, okay? And then if other things come along, other diets or that kind of stuff, you're able to really understand if it's going to work or if it's not going to work. Alrighty, so today we're going to run through a couple of different diets that are kind of out on the market, that have been popular, that have been around, and we're going to really break them down so you can understand if they work, if they will work for you, and also if they're applicable. Because there's a lot of stuff out there that is great, that's been researched, backed by science, but it's just not suitable for normal people that have a normal life and that have families, okay? And at the end of the day, it's got to work for both your body, but for your lifestyle as well. So the first one we're going to run through is keto, okay? Basically what keto is it's a high-fat, very, very low-carb diet. So high-fat, high-protein, and it works off a calorie budget as well. So depending on what you're going on, it's usually about 1,800 calories per day, but the majority of that has to come from protein and has to come from fat. In fact, you're only allowed about 40 grams of fat per day, okay? Now look, this obviously will work because you're in a calorie deficit, meaning you're eating slightly less than you're burning, okay, which is great, which means you lose body fat. The only thing with this is because you're depriving yourself of carbs, like you've got almost no carbohydrates. To put things into perspective, 40 grams is like, broccoli basically, and that's about it. Maybe some asparagus and that kind of stuff, but you can't have any kind of starchy veg, any kinds of fruits, definitely no kinds of sweets or snacks. And because you're depriving yourself of carbohydrates, not only will you be very, very, very low on energy initially, okay, but you'll also start to upset some other functions, like you'll damage things or you'll affect hormone production, okay, especially in terms of focus and sleep. That may go to the positive or the negative depending on the person, but it will definitely be affected. It'll throw it way out of kilter of where you normally are. The other thing with keto that you've got to remember is that unless this is something that you, your partner, your friends, your family want to do and really want to do it, it's not lifestyle friendly, okay, because it rules out so many things. Sauces, okay, almost every kind of soft drink or alcohol, or almost every kind of drink or alcohol, all fruits, all starchy veg, all processed food, so like any kind of dessert or anything like that, is automatically ruled out, which makes all kinds of breads, pastas, rice, grains, which makes eating out very, very difficult, okay? So that's essentially keto in a nutshell. Does it work? Absolutely. The benefits are you'll end up eating a lot of clean food. The downsides are you'll end up eating a lot of fat, okay, a lot of high-fat food, which can make people feel lethargic, make it difficult to focus, and also you'll be very restricted in what you can eat. One of the next ones, which is super popular lately, is the paleo diet. Okay, now paleo is kind of similar to keto, okay, with the exception there's no calories in paleo. You can kind of just eat whatever you want as long as it comes from the Paleolithic era, okay? So you're still allowed things with fruit, okay, you're still allowed seeds, lean meat, so you're allowed a little bit more carbohydrates, sweet potatoes, that kind of stuff. You're allowed a little bit more carbohydrates in this diet, okay, but it has to come from the Paleolithic era or the caveman era. And if it's not, then you can't eat it. So that's no alcohol, no processed food, none of that kind of stuff, no grains. Again, does it work? Look, I'm up in the air about this one because I think if you overeat on nuts, if you overeat on healthy fats, if you overeat on seafood, you still definitely gain weight. So I don't think it's that effective for fat loss. It also becomes very, very expensive and very, very difficult to manage as well. It is getting a bit easier to manage with like paleo-only shops coming up around, but they're not everywhere, and it restricts you from eating things like breads, any kinds of processed foods or sweets or desserts, and eating out. So does the paleo diet work? For me, not really. So I'm really still undecided about that one. It does have its benefits. You're eating a lot more fresh fruit and fresh veg, which is great, but I don't know how effective it is for body fat. The next one, which is the staple, it's been around for ages, it's the clean diet. Okay, so that's eating only healthy food, only unprocessed food. So no soft drinks, no cakes, no food that have been processed or pre-prepared. It's all unprocessed, all your lean meats, cooked and raw, fruits, nuts, veggies, seeds, grains, all whole foods. Promote a lot of high fiber stuff, okay, a lot of healthy fats, and a lot of fruit and veg. Now look, does this work? Again, I'm up in the air, similar to the paleo one, because there's no real restriction or quota on what you can or can't eat. Now olives are super healthy, super high in fat. If you eat too many olives, not only will it be very, very salty, but it's also a lot of fat, and too much fat, good fats, is not a good thing. There has to be balance. There has to be that moderation. So the clean diet absolutely gives you a lot more fiber, a lot more nutrients, a lot more micronutrients, a lot more minerals, absolutely, but it doesn't have that moderation. It doesn't have that balance. There's no guide that says this is how much you should eat of this, or that. It's just kind of eat unprocessed food. So for me, I don't find this one works that well because it lacks a lot of structure and a lot of guidance. All right, the next one is the low-fat diet. Again, this is a very, very old diet, been around for a long time. The science behind the low-fat diet, it says that if we cut or drastically reduce fat out of your diet, then by default you'll eat a lot less calories. You'll come under the calorie threshold where you're eating slightly less than you're burning, and you'll drop body fat, you'll drop weight. Now in theory that is true. Okay, the problem is you can still overeat on the low-fat diet. Okay, you can still have too much carbohydrates, you can still have too much protein, okay, and you can still go over your calorie budget. So again, it really does lack that that guidance, that threshold, that budget, that structure that the keto diet had. So the thing with the low-fat diet is it gets you eating a lot more fresh food, fresh veggies, which is great, okay, and it does keep you relatively low on fat, so it's almost the opposite to the keto diet, which is not a bad thing, in saying that we do need to have some especially good fats in our diet. So that's your fishes, your nuts, your avocados, your oils, even some of your meat fats, because they're essential not just for hormones, but also for energy, okay, and also for the cell health, so the health of your body in general. So I don't know about the low-fat diet. It's definitely not bad. It's better than just eating McDonald's, absolutely, okay, but I don't think it's the be-all and end-all because it misses that budget, it misses that guidance, it misses that threshold, and going too low-fat for too long, especially for women, can seriously affect hormones, even, chance of pregnancy, period cycles, and all that kind of stuff, which is not good. One of the next ones which has been pretty popular is what we call the Dukan diet, okay? The thing about the Dukan diet is it's not bad, absolutely. It's got a little bit more scientific research, and I think it does work to a degree because it does have some guidance, okay? Basically how it works is at the start you cut out a whole heap of food types, different types of food, and then you slowly reintroduce them as your body, quote unquote, starts to readapt to these new kinds of food. The good thing with this is there is some portion size control on there, okay, so it's got that threshold of the calories. The bad thing about this though is it is incredibly difficult to not only stick to but also to maintain. You can't eat out while you're on this. You can't do this. You can't put your kids on this. You can't be social and stick to the Dukan diet unless everyone else is doing the Dukan diet with you, okay, which is not bad, but it can be very, very difficult to maintain. So does it work? Absolutely. The bad thing about it, though, it can be difficult to stick to because it can be very, very unsociable. Even in saying that, it does have some scientific backing behind it. The next one, so this one is called the 5 and 2 diet, but it's kind of got two principles. The first one is actually the 5 and 2 diet, where you eat normally for 5 days, okay, and then on 2 designated days, you're incredibly low calories. So, maybe 400, 500, 600 calories for the entire day, Okay. Again, this does work. People have gotten results from it, and it does have some kind of threshold, some kind of guidance as to say how much you should eat. The thing that I don't like about it is, first of all, you can only eat 600 calories in a day, which for me is not a lot at all. And obviously, if you're lighter, then it would be less. The second thing is the inconsistency. So I find getting into a routine works really well for me, for my clients too. If you're logging your calories, you're always logging your calories, and you start to get a really good idea without even having to look at your phone of what you can eat, what you have eating, and where you are in terms of that calorie balance. If you're only doing it 2 days a week, it becomes very, very difficult to remember. It becomes very difficult to get into a routine. It also becomes very, very unsociable if something happens on those days that's unplanned, okay? Meaning you're allowed, celebration, you want to go out, someone's birthday, and if that's a 600 calorie day, then, like you're not going to be able to get away with much. It's like 3 drinks at most. The other one is what we call intermittent fasting. So this works off the same principle, but instead of having a whole day where you don't eat, you go for a period of time. So you may eat for, only 8 hours a day or a period of 8 hours. So you go to bed, wake up, skip breakfast, have, a very small lunch or no lunch, and then have a big dinner, okay? Now look, again, a lot of people have got success with this. The thing that I find tough about it, okay, is not having breakfast. For me, that absolutely does my head in. I'm hungry, I want to eat, I can't think, I can't focus. But also there's that lack of guidance. There's no, okay, this is when you need to eat, this is, what time you can start eating. It's kind of eat for as long, don't eat for as long as you can, and then you can eat whatever you want. So it's very, very unspecified, and for me that lacks a little bit of structure. For me, it would be very, very difficult to follow. And lastly is the one we do, okay, so that's your calorie budget or your calorie deficit diet. So that's where we say, okay, cool, we understand your body has needs, okay, you need to eat fats, carbohydrates, and protein, and you have a calorie budget as well, okay. So as long as you eat under that calorie budget and you fill your macronutrients, you'll be able to perform well and you'll still lose body fat. The one principle behind all of these diets, whether it be keto, paleo, clean eating, low fat, Dukan, intermittent fasting, or 5 and 2, or the calorie deficit diet itself, is all of them only work because of one principle. Okay, some go into different areas at different depths, but they all only work because you're in a slight calorie deficit. Okay, the 5 and 2 diet, 2 days you're having no food almost, so over the course of the week you're in a deficit. The Dukan diets, at the start you're cutting out a whole heap of food, which is so common, you're in a calorie deficit. The low-fat diet, you're cutting out all kinds or almost all kinds of fat, okay, which is so high in calorie, make up a large portion of your diet, you're cutting out, you're in a calorie deficit. The clean diet, you're cutting out processed foods, okay, automatically puts you into calorie deficit because processed foods are so high in calories. Same with the paleo diet, no processed food, in calories, in calorie deficit. The keto diet, same deal, you're cutting out carbs. Carbs are such a staple, okay, of energy production and performance. You're cutting out carbs, cutting out calories, you're in a calorie deficit. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what kind of diet you do, as long as you're able to be in a slight calorie deficit. The thing that will determine the success rate is if it fits for you as a person, if it fits your lifestyle. If you enjoy doing the 5 and 2 diet, then you are totally welcome to do that and stay on it for as long as it works for you, okay? I'd hate it because I can't eat for 2 days of the week, which would drive me absolutely insane. Same with the intermittent fasting diet, same with the Dukan diet because I've got to cut so much out for such a long period at the time. Same as the low-fat diet, okay? Because there's almost no fat in. Same as the clean eating diet because I'm a person. I want to have fun sometimes too. Same as the paleo diet and definitely the same as the keto diet because I love rice. Okay? So it doesn't really matter what diet you do. The reason we use calories is because it gives you the ultimate flexibility. Because if shit goes wrong today, you can sort it out over the next week and still be okay. You can still get great results. You can still feel good. You can still perform well. Okay? A lot of the other diets don't allow for that flexibility. Another reason we do the calorie deficit diet is because it's the basis of all the other diets. So if you nail this, you will have no problem picking up any other diet. And that is the one fundamental rule behind why all diets either work or don't work. So moving forward long into the future, when you come across a diet and you're not sure if it's going to work or not, you can easily debunk if it's going to be a fad or if it's going to work by seeing if it's going to put you into a slight calorie deficit and checking or ticking the box if it's going to fit your life. So if it matches those two things, you are definitely onto a winner. So that's all for me today. Remember, if you've got questions, post them up. Otherwise, we're pretty good. Perfect. All right, everything looks great. Fantastic. So if you missed this, I'll post the replay up. You'll be able to get to it later tonight. Otherwise, we are ready to rock and roll for the week. Remember, if you've got questions, post them up and tag me in the group. That is so, so important. I cannot stress how important that is. You need to make sure